Everyone. Josh Parsons, Chairman of the Board of Commissioners, Vice Chairman of the Board of Elections. As you've now heard, thanks to the great work of our Board of Elections staff, we have identified this suspected voter registration fraud operation. We then isolated and contained all suspected fraudulent ballots. We notified the district attorney, and she immediately brought to bear all necessary resources and went into action to investigate. I want to thank DA Adams, her county detectives, and her whole team. They immediately jumped in to action to launch a very large-scale investigation. As a former prosecutor myself, I can tell you that starting a large-scale investigation on short notice is not easy, but they are absolute top-notch professionals, and I'm confident they will find and prosecute those responsible for this attack on our election system. I also want to thank the nonpartisan election workers of Lancaster County. They work incredibly hard and incredibly long hours, as my colleague Alice just said, to ensure that our system works. They take it as virtually a sacred duty to do their jobs and do them correctly and in strict accordance with the law. We three election board members do also. Whatever our partisan positions are outside of this office, when we sit here as members of the Board of Elections, our duty is to follow and enforce the law. That's what we've always done. I will note that earlier this week, even as our nonpartisan election workers were doing their jobs and finding this suspected fraud, they were being attacked with false allegations from groups like the ACLU, WITF LMP, and others who falsely alleged allegations that were frankly absurd. We quickly debunked these allegations, both in public meetings and in communicating with the Department of State. All three commissioners are in unanimous and bipartisan agreement that our staff has acted properly. And despite us debunking these, and despite us being aligned with the Pennsylvania Department of State staff on this, Secretary of the Commonwealth, Al Schmidt, repeated these same false allegations that we had already debunked in a letter, in an official letter to us. That letter that Schmidt sent, which was addressed to us, was apparently leaked directly to LNP, so that we were asked questions from LNP before we ever saw it. I'll note it would have been very easy at that time for our staff to simply throw up their hands, and one, having to do a very difficult, long job. Two, while they're receiving these false allegations from people who should know better, and they could have stopped doing their job. Well, thankfully, they kept doing their job. Thankfully for the people of Lancaster County, thankfully for the people of Pennsylvania. They kept doing their job even in the face of all of this. They did it carefully, efficiently, and effectively. Our staff adhere strictly to the law. They make sure that every legal voter can vote, but they do not cut corners on election security. So let me say this to Secretary Schmidt or anyone else. We are running what may be the largest, most complicated election in our lifetime, and we do not have time for that kind of political nonsense. The Pennsylvania Department of State should be helping counties run this election, and frankly, it should be now putting out a warning to other counties about this suspected fraud operation that we have stopped in case it is operating in other counties. In the absence of that, we will work to alert our colleagues across the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania about what has occurred here and to be on the lookout. We're going to continue to operate the Lancaster County election system with integrity, veracity, and transparency, as my colleague, Commissioner D'Agostino, said. The people of Lancaster County and the nation can feel secure that our systems worked, our election in Lancaster County is secure, and we will hold accountable those who threaten it with fraud or anything else. Thank you. With that, we'll take your questions. I will note, as the DA has said, it's an